Hello, I'm Vonnie B, and welcome to Vonnie B's Homemaker Experience. As always, I am so glad that you decided to join me. Today, I'm going to be making some cornbread. And this is a recipe that my mother gave me many years ago because I didn't know how to make a sweet cornbread. So now I've told you it's a sweet cornbread. It has a little bit of sugar in it. And this is the way that my husband liked it. And at the time, I didn't know have a recipe for making a sweet cornbread. I just only knew how to make, I don't know, it's just a plain cornbread without any sugar in it. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be making today. And this is something that I make regularly. I have not memorized the recipe, so I'm going to have to read it. Take a look at it as we go through it. But I do want to say it is an easy recipe to follow, and I'm sure even if you've never made cornbread before, you'll be able to do it too. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to angle my camera down to my mixing bowl. All right, here we go. All right, hopefully that's good. Okay, so as you can see, I have my mixing bowl here. And I do have my sifter, even though, you don't have to use a sifter. I like to use it so that I can easily make sure that all the baking powder and everything is totally mixed in to the flour and the cornmeal. All right, so now we're going to start off. I'm going to start off with a cup of flour, just all-purpose flour. And as I usually do, I'm measuring the flour. I'm weighing the flour. So I'm going to use 120 grams of all-purpose flour. And that's about the equivalent of a cup. That's the measurement that I always use, 120 grams. All right. So I went just a tad bit over, a couple of grams over. I don't think that's going to hurt anything. All right. The next item, or the next ingredient that I'm adding is the cornmeal. Okay. So I'm just going to zero my scale out again. And then I'm going to weigh in 120 grams of the cornmeal. Okay. All right, we're there. And as you can see, these are all the dry ingredients. Okay, I didn't mention that. Putting all the dry ingredients through the sifter. So next will be the sugar. Remember I said this was going to be a sweet cornbread. So it doesn't have it's not like a cake, but it is very good though. But anyway, my point is I'm not going to put like a cup of sugar in. I'm only putting a quarter cup of sugar, which is about 50 grams. So I'm going to weigh that in. All right, I'm at 49 grams. I'm going to leave it right there, okay? All right. So the next ingredient I'll put in is the salt. And let me just double check the recipe. I'm going to need a half a teaspoon. And you can leave the salt out if you want to, or put less in if you choose. But I'm going to put a half a teaspoon in, and I'm just going to use my little, just a little measuring spoon, a half a teaspoon. Okay, so we'll put that in. And then we need a quarter teaspoon of baking soda. That's right, not baking powder, baking soda. All right, so we need a quarter teaspoon of baking soda. Don't need quite as much baking soda as you do salt. Right, so just a quarter teaspoon. And Then we need a lot of baking powder. I'm saying a lot because it's in comparison to the salt and the baking soda. It is a lot. We need 4 teaspoons. So as you can see, you level it off. It's not heaping. Okay. You always level these ingredients off. All right. That's 2, 3, and 4. There you go. All right, so here we are. We've got all of our dry ingredients in the bowl. So the next item, we have this all mixed up. Now we're going to add oil, an egg, and milk. All right. I'm going to put my egg in. Okay. Just going to let it sit right there on top for right now. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and get my pan ready because this goes together pretty fast. All right, so I am using a loaf pan for the cornbread. You know, you don't always have to make it in a what would you call it? A sheet pan. You can use a loaf pan if you desire. You know, and actually, when you just remember when you do that, you need to turn your oven down a little bit. Because you don't want it not to be done. You know, it'll cook it too fast if you're going from a sheet pan to a loaf pan. So anyway, I'm going to turn my temperature, make sure my temperature is turned down. And actually it is already. Typically I make this cornbread I bake it at 425 degrees. But I set my oven temp at 400 just because I am doing the loaf pan. Okay. All right, so here we go. I'm using a little bit of wax paper in the bottom, and this helps to make sure that it comes out of the pan. Okay. Just a little insurance. Okay, and I'll put a little bit of shortening to kind of hold this wax paper in place. And you can use if you're going to just have the wax paper at the bottom of your pan and you know your batter is covering it completely, then you can use the wax paper. If it's not going to cover, if your batter is not going to cover the wax paper, you don't use it because it will burn in the oven. You need if you're going to have your paper coming or liner coming out of the pan, you know, up the sides, you need to use parchment paper. Okay. All right. So I've got this in the bottom and I'm going to go ahead and spray the sides. Okay. Let me move this out the way because I don't want this oil going all over the place. All right. Just, you know, your nonstick cooking oil. All right. I don't want this sticking to the sides. You know, I don't have the paper on the sides. All right, so we'll just move this out the way. All right, back to the batter. We've got the egg in here, and I'm going to add to that the oil. And we need, the recipe says a 1/4 cup of oil. And so a 1/4 cup of oil is the same. You can use a measuring cup or you can use your measuring spoons. A 1/4 cup of oil is the equivalent of 4 tablespoons. So I'm just going to use, and instead of using a full 1/4 cup, I'm using 3 tablespoons. Okay. So that's 1. Just cutting back a little bit on the fat, just a little bit. Okay. That's 2, and I really should have taken that all the way up like that. Okay, that's 3. All right, now we'll just go ahead and put the full 4 in, okay? All right, 1/4 cup. Now, if I had used the 3, I would have used an extra tablespoon of milk. Okay, because you need the liquid. All right. All right. All right. So next, the final item or ingredient is the buttermilk. And so you see I have here a cup of buttermilk, and what I use, I don't actually use buttermilk that comes in a carton. I make my own, and I very seldom, if ever, buy buttermilk. You can just take whatever kind of milk you wanted to use, whole milk, 2% skim, almond milk, and that's what I'm using, almond milk. And then put a tablespoon of vinegar in, and then let it sit a little bit so it can curdle. As you can see how that looks. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to pour that in. Okay, and that's it. So then I'm going to break this yolk up a little bit. All right. Got that. And so now I'll just take my spatula and mix this all together. No beating, just mixing with your spatula. Okay, and that's it. Like I said, it's an easy recipe to follow. Doesn't take very long to do it. And you have a very nice cornbread. Okay. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some paper towel and wipe along the edge here. Get that oil off of there, because if you leave that on and put it in the, put it in the oven, that kind of ends up, staining your pans. Okay. And I'll try to keep my pans looking clean. It makes it kind of hard to clean. It's a little, if you don't have that oil cooking in on that glass, or even your, if you're using a aluminum or stainless steel pan, it's good to just wipe it off, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna make sure that's kind of lined up right. Okay, so now I'll just pour this into the pan. All right, here it is, fresh out of the oven, and it looks beautiful. A nice golden brown. Look at those sides. I had it in the oven for about 25 minutes. Well, 425, had it in the oven for 25 minutes. And I'm just gonna let it cool just a little bit. It's very hot, so I don't wanna handle it too much, but I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit and then take it out of the oven, okay? I'm sorry, and then take it out of the pan. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes that this has been cooling, and I shook it a little bit to make sure it was just gonna come out of here. So there it is. You can see, I don't know if you can see it kind of moving, maybe you can't, but anyway, it's ready to come out. So I am going to very carefully, actually I'm just gonna flip it on over. I'm gonna do it like that. There we go. And as you can see, my paper, my wax paper just peels right off, and it's looking beautiful. All right. Now I'll just flip it carefully. All right, there we go. All right, and now it's ready. And I'm just gonna let this cool before I cut it. That's why I put it on the wax paper, so I could just lift it up cool up here. All right, there you have it. And once it cools, I'm just gonna cut it like a loaf cake across like this. And I think we can get 8 slices, and if not, we'll do 8 halves. You know, just cut thick ones, and then this way. But I think we're gonna be able to do 8 slices. All right, or 8 servings, however you want to say it. Okay, now this is cooled down a bit. It's still a little warm to the touch, but hopefully it'll be all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. I'm gonna start in the middle because I want to kind of have my cuts. My size is fairly even. Okay, so then I'm gonna do it like this. All right, because I'm doing 8 pieces. All right, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. I'll turn it around. Oh, don't you love it? I know I do. All right, and here's the inner slice. And it just looks, I just do it in the loaf pan just to give it a little different look. You know, you can do, you know, the loaf pan or the, like a sheet pan or sheet type pan, I guess. Okay, look at that. That's wonderful. Okay, let me cut through there. There you go. Okay. Now, I don't know what happened right there. I got, oh, you know what? See that little, that's like an air bubble. I should have made sure that this was shaken or, you know, kind of got the air bubbles out. I didn't. All right, so I know I need to do that next time. All right, so I'm gonna cut this one. Okay, and then the last. All right, so then here you have it. Okay, there, all right, that's looking good, that's looking good. Aside from our little air bubble, looks good. And seemed like it, for some reason, it didn't cook all the way through that little spot. So I just have to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed next time. But this is beautiful, looks beautiful overall. And we're gonna have this for dinner. And with some, I got some kale and cabbage that I'm serving this with. I love cornbread with any type of greens. So, and that we don't eat, I'm going to put in the freezer. Wrap it up and freeze it. It freezes very well and it keeps very well. Or I should just say it freezes very well. All right, well, this ends my video for today. And I thank you for joining me today. And I pray that you either saw or heard something that was beneficial to you. Now, if you have not subscribed to my channel, remember to subscribe to it. That's Viney V's Homemaker Experience, and click the notification bell so you will be alerted each time I upload a new video. All right, well, that's it for now. And until next time, God bless and have a wonderful day.